Fire protection districts across the state had to make budget cuts in 2017 because of a unique provision in Colorado's Constitution. A provision that meant that exploding growth in home prices on the Front Range actually forced budget restrictions on fire departments in Grand County. And it is impacting Grand Fire Protection District. That provision is the Gallagher Amendment. In 1982, voters passed the Gallagher Amendment to the Constitution that changed the way homes were appraised, and it also required that the amount of property taxes collected from homes statewide could never account for more than roughly 45% of total property tax collection statewide. The amendment means that the remaining 55% of property taxes must come from non-residential property like businesses and agricultural property. Gallagher also dictated the assessment rate for all property. What is the assessment rate? It is the percentage of a property's value that is subject to taxation. You do not pay taxes on the entire value of your home, only a portion of it. For example, if you have a $400,000 home and the assessment rate is 7.2%, you only pay property taxes on $28,800 of the home's value. That assessed value gets multiplied by your locally approved mills. Roughly a third goes to the school district, some to the county, some to the towns, and a very small amount to special districts like Grand Fire. Gallagher locked the assessment rate on non-residential property at 29%. That set rate means that the assessment rate for residential property must fluctuate to maintain the roughly 45 to 55 ratio. When Gallagher was added to the Constitution, the residential assessment rate was 21%. Throughout the 1980s, the growth in value of residential property outpaced increases in non-residential property values. With ever-rising residential property values, the assessment rate on homes was lowered. It fell to 18%, then 16%, then 15%. It hit 10.36% in 1995, then it fell to 7.96% in 2003. In 2017, it dropped to 7.2%. We can see the budget impacts that resulted from the Gallagher drop from 7.96% to 7.2% in 2017. That's roughly a 10% drop in the rate. This affected areas of Colorado differently. On the Front Range, where home values have grown substantially and there is a balanced mix of residential and non-residential property, the Gallagher drop was not as much of an issue. But districts like Grand Fire that rely heavily on residential property and haven't seen the increase in values like the Front Range are facing financial challenges. And unlike schools that receive more money from the state budget if their local revenue falls, fire districts do not get any help from the state or other sources. We are totally dependent upon local revenue sources. 72% of Grand Fire's taxable valuation comes from residential property, which means our district is deeply impacted by any decrease in the residential assessment rate. Grand County as a whole saw a 17% growth in home property values, which should have resulted in financial recovery from the recession for Grand Fire. However, because of the Gallagher drop by 10% on homes, our tax revenue remained flat. Because of that 10% drop, we have postponed the construction of a new station and the purchase of replacement aerial apparatus. We are finding it difficult to keep up with new growth, inflation, and increases in our emergency call volume. And the problem will only get worse in the coming years. Because residential property value increases continue to outpace non-residential value growth statewide, Gallagher will cause another, even bigger drop in property tax collections in 2020 and beyond. Current estimates suggest that the assessment rate will decrease to 6.1% in 2019. Given the 10% drop in 2017 and another 15% drop in 2019, the residential assessment rate will have fallen by nearly 25% in 4 years. At the same time, emergency call volume for Grand Fire continues to grow. Calls for emergency service in the district increased by nearly 90% over the last 10 years. Another drop in the residential assessment rate will cause us to further delay the construction of a new North Fire Station and the replacement of aging apparatus. It could also result in budget cuts for community services, fire prevention, and staffing unless a revenue stabilization measure is implemented to counteract the Gallagher Amendment. This video was brought to you by the Colorado Fiscal Institute with support from all of us at Grand Fire Protection District.